Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unlock what I literally like to call a real-world superpower. We're talking about the science of moving massive, incredibly heavy objects using nothing but your own strength and just a little bit of physics. This is basically the ultimate cheat code to the physical world. And honestly, by the end of this, you'll look at every seesaw, bicycle, and pair of scissors in a completely different way.
So let's just dive right into this. Imagine you're walking down a trail, and this massive boulder is completely blocking your path. You can't push it, you definitely can't pick it up, but you happen to have a long, sturdy wooden branch. How in the world do you move it? This isn't a trick question. It's an actual physical challenge that early humans solved thousands of years ago. They figured out that machines are the absolute ultimate solution to working smarter, not harder.
Here is a roadmap for today. First, what is mechanical advantage? Second, levers, the force multipliers. Third, lever calculations using ratios. Fourth, gears, connecting for power. Fifth, calculating gears, teeth, and size. And sixth, velocity ratios in gears.
Starting right off with Section 1, what is mechanical advantage?
Before we can really use a machine, we need to understand the fundamental rule that governs all of them. The entire purpose of any machine is simply to make work easier. So mechanical advantage is just the number of times a machine multiplies your effort force to make that work easier and faster. Now, a machine doesn't magically reduce the total amount of work that needs to be done. In physics, work is literally just the force you apply multiplied by the distance you move an object. A machine simply acts as a force multiplier. It takes your small effort and just magnifies it into a huge output force. But of course, there is a catch. The universe always demands a trade-off, right? If you want to use less physical effort to move that giant boulder, you're going to have to apply that smaller force over a much greater distance. On the flip side, if you use more force, you need less distance. That is the universal equation of work. You really can't cheat the total amount of energy required, but you can stretch it out so the whole thing feels like a total breeze.
Moving on to Section 2, levers, the force multipliers.
You actually use levers every single day. Think of a seesaw on a playground, a wheelbarrow out in the garden, or even the handbrakes on a bicycle. These are all levers acting as force multipliers. Now, to master the lever, we've got to map out its physical anatomy, and it's beautifully simple. You basically have three parts. First, the fulcrum, which is the pivot point where the lever rests or turns. Second, the effort arm, which is the distance from the fulcrum to where you're actively applying your pushing or pulling force. And third, the load arm, which is the distance from the fulcrum to the heavy object you are actually trying to move. So the absolutely crucial point here is how these specific parts interact. As our source material points out, the mechanical advantage of a lever completely depends on the position of that fulcrum. By lengthening the distance from the fulcrum to your input point, your effort arm, you give yourself incredible magnified pushing power. Basically, the longer your side of the stick is compared to the boulder's side, the easier that boulder is going to be to lift. Let's hit Section 3, lever calculations using ratios. Now that we have the concept down, let's completely crack the mathematical code. And the best part, we are going to calculate this entirely using fast, simple ratios. You have two approved ratio formulas to choose from. You can either divide the output load by your input effort, or, hey, if you only have a tape measure handy, you can just divide the length of the effort arm by the length of the load arm. Both of these give you your exact mechanical advantage. Let's look at a real-world example from our source material. Imagine a gardener trying to lift a heavy rock. If they use a stick where the effort arm, again the part they push down on, is 2 meters long, and the load arm, the part tucked under the rock, is just 0.5 meters long, we just divide 2 by 0.5. That gives us a mechanical advantage of 4. That means the lever takes the gardener's physical push and literally multiplies it by 4. Now wait a second. What if you do the math and your mechanical advantage comes out to less than 1, say 0.8? Does that mean the machine is broken or useless? Not at all. A mechanical advantage of less than 1 simply means the machine is designed to multiply distance instead of force. Think about a broom or a pair of tweezers. You apply a little bit of force over a very short distance, and the end of the tool moves a much larger distance to sweep dust or grab a tiny object. It's still making your specific task easier.
All right, Section 4, gears, connecting for power.
If levers are all about sticks and pivot points, gears are all about spinning wheels with teeth. Anyone who has ever tried to pedal a bicycle up a brutally steep hill knows exactly how important gears are.
A gear system is really just about the relationship between two specific wheels. You have the input gear, which is called the driver gear. This is the one you're actively pedaling or turning with a motor. Then you have the output gear, called the driven gear, which meshes its teeth with the driver and reacts to that movement. By changing the sizes of these gears, you can dramatically increase either your pulling force or your top speed.
Section 5. Calculating gears, teeth, and size.
Just like we did with levers, we use simple ratios to calculate power, but here we look at the vital stats of our gears, their teeth and their physical size. To find your gear ratio, you just need to compare the output to the input. You can calculate this by taking the number of teeth on the driven gear and dividing it by the teeth on the driver gear. Or if you don't feel like counting all those tiny teeth, just measure them. Divide the diameter of the driven gear by the diameter of the driver gear. Output divided by input. It really is as simple as that.
Let's say you have an 80-tooth driven gear and a 20-tooth driver gear. 80 divided by 20 gives you a ratio of 4:1. This highlights the exact same trade-off we talked about earlier. You get an output force that is 4 times greater than your input, which, by the way, is amazing for climbing that steep hill, but the trade-off is distance. Your driver gear has to spin 4 whole times just to turn the driven gear once. So remember, if your force increases, your speed decreases.
And that brings us to Section 6, velocity ratios in gears.
Okay, we know how to calculate force, but let's find out exactly how fast these interconnected gears are actually spinning. Velocity ratio measures the speed at which a gear revolves around its own axle. We measure this in RPM, or revolutions per minute. To find the velocity ratio, you divide the velocity of the output gear by the velocity of the input gear. It simply tells you how many full turns that specific gear completes in exactly 1 minute.
And here is the golden rule you absolutely need to remember. The velocity ratio of a pair of gears is always the exact opposite of the gear ratio. If you have a massive mechanical advantage that multiplies your force, it is going to divide your speed. To find your final output speed, you simply take your input speed and divide it by your gear ratio.
Let's actually prove that rule with a quick calculation from the source material. Let's say your driver gear is spinning at 60 revolutions per minute, and you've already calculated a gear ratio of 2. You take that 60 RPM input, divide it by the gear ratio of 2, and your output speed is exactly 30 RPM. Your force was doubled, so your speed was perfectly cut in half.
Now, before we wrap up today, I really want to share an absolutely incredible fact from our explainer source material. Everything we've calculated today is theoretical mechanical advantage. Here on Earth, the actual mechanical advantage is always a little bit less. Why? Because of friction, gravity, tension, and heat loss. Parts rub together and lose energy. Technologists work super hard to invent materials to reduce that friction. But in outer space, there is almost no air, and so there's almost no friction. That means in the vacuum of space, it is entirely possible to have machines that operate with 100% efficiency. Think about that. That completely frictionless environment means every single ounce of effort you put into a lever or a gear translates perfectly into moving a load. It's the ultimate playground for physics. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought. Armed with the ultimate cheat code of mechanical advantage, if you could build a lever or a gear train in the 100% efficient, frictionless vacuum of space, what massive object would you move first? Keep exploring, keep questioning, and start using mechanical advantage to your benefit.